Good morning, grade 6. This is Ms Sara Nofal. I hope you're all doing great. We will be reading in this lesson a for or against argument, and we're going to be analyzing it. And our reading is Animals Are Smart. I've already sent you the text as a pre-reading, so please, if you haven't read it, please pause the video, go read it, and then continue the video again, because I'm not going to be reading every word in it. We're just going to highlight the important parts. Okay, now that you have read it, this is an example of a for or against argument. This is a model for our own writing, because we're going to be asked to write a for or against article. So if you are wondering what should you write, or how your writing should look like, well, this is the text that you will be building your own writings on. So let's start with the introduction here, the introduction part, the first paragraph. I'm going to be reading it. So some people think that we are superior to animals, but I think that animals are as smart as we are. Pets react to your moods and seem to know just when it's dinner time. Some animals use tools, communicate, and think for their own. So what do we do in the introduction? First, we start with a general statement. So the writer starts with some people think that we are superior to animals. This is to introduce the topic, which is animals are smart. Actually, he starts here with a counter argument, but then he says, I think that animals are as smart as we are, in which he introduces his claim that animals are as smart as humans. And in his thesis statement, he introduces his 3 reasons that he will be talking about throughout the essay. So the first reason here, we have some animals use tools. This is the first reason. Some animals communicate. This is the second reason. And the third reason is that they think for their own. Let's move on to the body paragraph here. The second paragraph, the first body paragraph. Let's read the topic sentence. If animals can use tools, they must be smart. The topic sentence, as we said, introduces the main idea of the whole paragraph. So, what is the main idea of the whole paragraph? That animals can use tools, and if they can use tools, then they are smart. If we take a look at the thesis statement, this is exactly what he does. He states the first reason as animals using tools. This is the first reason, and instantly after it, he gives an example or an evidence to support his reason. So we have the reason stated at the topic sentence, and then we have the example and the evidence. And he uses for instance, in order to introduce his evidence. Here he organizes the reasons and the evidence clearly. Also, he supports the claim with clear reasons and relevant evidence. All the evidence that you support must go back to your reason. They have to support the reason, and you have to show links. So, for example, he says, I think that this shows Fu Manchu was smart because he used a tool and he outsmarted humans by escaping from his cage. So he relates the reason, which is that animals are smart, the reason to the evidence. The evidence is that this animal used tools. So you have to always relate your evidence to your reason by using words, phrases, and clauses. And then we move on to the second body paragraph here, which is, let's read the topic sentence. Animals who communicate might even be smarter than animals who use tools. So the second body paragraph carries the second reason. If we see here in the thesis statement, some animals use tools, and then number 2, they communicate. So this is what we will be discussing in the second body paragraph. We will be discussing how animals who communicate are smart. And then after he states his topic sentence, he gives instantly again an evidence to support his reason. So he supports the claim with clear reasons and relevant evidence and demonstrates an understanding of the topic. Of course, you have to be aware of your topic, and you have to research in order to state facts to support your reasons and give evidence, of course. And then we have the third body paragraph. Let's read the topic sentence. For animals who don't communicate or use tools, there is another category. And then he puts a colon to says what is this category. Animals that think on their own. And this is, if we go back to the thesis statement, we will find that the third reason is animals thinking for their own. So this is what he states here in the topic sentence for the third body paragraph. And then instantly again he gives an example, he gives evidence to support his claim. And then the writer writes or adds a fourth body paragraph here, and in the fourth body paragraph he introduces a counterclaim which later on the writer refutes, or he shows weakness in it. This fourth body paragraph is not required of you. You will just write your introduction and then 3 body paragraphs in each one reason, and then you're going to write a conclusion. So let's go on to the conclusion of this essay. Let's read the topic sentence again. My goal of this essay was to convince you that animals were smart. So again, the writer restates his main claim, and then he summarizes at the end the reasons, which are that animals that use tools, communicate, and think for their own are smart. And that's it for this essay. Please notice how it's organized. Your essay should be organized like it. Okay, so let's wrap up this essay. In this assignment, the student has been working with a study of animals and has read several informational pieces. She appears to be responding to a focusing question of what have... So, before you start writing your own for or against essay, you need to come up with a question to answer throughout the essay. And the question for this article was, what have you learned about how smart animals are? And then, of course, the writer develops her claim with several reasons, and after she states 3 reasons, she gives relevant evidence to develop the reasons. And this shows her understanding of her topic. And also the writer organizes her ideas clearly and supports her claim with logical reasoning. And finally, while the writer occasionally adopts a personal tone in stating my goal of this essay was to convince you, the overall tone of the essay is appropriately formal, and this is what we should be writing. Our tone should be formal. And the writer concludes by restating the focus or the claim about animals being smart. I hope this clarifies the idea of writing for or against essay again, and will help you in writing your own for or against. Now we're going to be moving on to a grammar hint. The grammar hint here is about helper verbs. Helper verbs, there are two types of verbs, main verbs and helper verbs or auxiliary verbs. Helping verbs include verb to be, verb to have, and verb to do. These are helping verbs and they come before the main verb. Not all main verbs need helping verbs. For example, we never use a helper verb with the verb froze, chose, spoke, or broke. But we always use a helper verb with frozen, chosen, spoken, and broken. So, for example, we say, I chose to read a book about UFOs. Or you can say, I have chosen to read a book about UFOs. Have here is used as a helper or auxiliary verb. And chosen here is the main verb. And chosen is a main verb that needs an auxiliary verb. That's why we put have. However, chose is a main verb that does not need a helper verb. Okay, so let's look at these sentences. I would like you to pause the video, try to choose the correct verb form to complete each sentence, and then continue the video again. Okay, now that you have solved, let's check the answers. The first one, it was very cold this morning and the bird bath was, so here we have was, verb to be, helper verb, so we have to choose frozen because frozen requires a helper verb. Number 2, I broke or broken the ice so the birds could have a drink. We don't have a helper verb here, so it has to be I broke. The third one, we all chose or chosen hot porridge for breakfast. We don't have a helper verb, so again it's chose. Mom rushed in saying that our water pipes were. We have a helper verb here, so it has to be frozen. Dad asked if she had. So had here is a helper verb. We need to use spoken. Mom told him that the telephone had. We have another helper verb here, so it's broken. Had broken. Mom was in a bad mood, so dad. We don't have a helper verb here, so it's going to be chose. Dad chose to keep out of her way. And other verbs that need a helper verb are known, grown, and thrown. They all need helper verbs. Again, helper verbs can be verb to be, verb to have, or verb to do. That will be it for our first reading session. I hope you understood well, and I'll see you next session, next lesson. Bye bye.